So my name's Christine Healy. I'm the president of Envy. I've only just started as the president of Envy. I took it over from Peter Hoban, who has been the president, I think, for the last 4 years. And it's very exciting being the president of Envy at this particular time. To arrive and have COVID-19 thrust upon us has been quite challenging. And I guess, like you, the Envy committee have been thinking about, wondering how should we respond, what should we do? And we had lots of questions for ourselves, and we've been planning some face-to-face professional development for museum and gallery educators. And clearly that wasn't going to work anymore. So we started talking about what can we do, how can we make this into a digital format? And we were starting to get Zoom on our computers and thinking, well, how can we use that? And our talking just went round and round in circles about what should be the focus. So we decided in the end that maybe we shouldn't have a focus, and maybe Sue's going to talk a little bit about this shortly, and that we should just see what people are thinking and feeling, and that will help point the direction for our next professional development opportunity that we decide to run. So welcome. This is a town hall forum on Zoom to connect with each other to discuss the impact of COVID. I'd like to thank the subcommittee who have been organising this. So Sue Burgess, Celia Mallard, May Lou, who else have we got? Who have I forgotten?
Ian Watts was involved in the earlier version as well.
Ian Watts. So there's been a few people working in the background to get this up and running and upskill ourselves so that we actually know how Zoom works. So thank you to those people. And I'd like to begin this session by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're meeting today. For me, this is the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their spirits, ancestors, elders and community members past and present. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be attending our gathering today. And I invite you to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that you're on by posting their name in the shared chat window. Thank you. So now I'm going to handball it over to Sue, who will continue the session. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine. So I'm Sue Burgess. I work at the Shrine of Remembrance. You can see that from my image there. A couple of housekeeping things before we get the fun discussion going. This gathering is being recorded, and if you haven't done so already, please mute your microphone. That's in the bottom left of your screen. Hands up if you'd like to speak. Christine and May will be helping to facilitate that part of this program. And you can see there on the screen, if you click on participants, and then you'll see a hands up option. And of course, I know already we're going to run out of time. So we'd love to continue the conversation online, and you can join us on Facebook to chat, and we'll have more details about how you can keep the conversation going at the end of the session today. So, working from home, we're already in the prelim. We had a couple of conversations about that, but I thought I might just share with everybody to start the ball rolling my experience at working from home. So it's definitely been challenging, but I've tried to keep in touch with my team, and so I think some of my team members are on this chat today. So we've tried to keep in touch in a light-hearted way via email, and via Zoom, just sharing information and just seeing each other's faces, because it's become really apparent that social connection is really super important, and it's something that I personally have missed. And I did say jokingly to my team last week, I think it was, that I think when this is over, I'm going to have an overwhelming desire to hug everybody. But I'm not sure that I'll actually do that, but that's the feelings I've been getting. So at the Shrine, what we're trying to do is just to talk to the audiences that we always talk to, but sort of expand the ways in which we're doing that. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. But I'll be interested to open up the discussion about working from home. I live in a house with 3 other people, my husband and 2 teenage boys. And for teenagers, life is not too different. They're very much online beasts, as we know. But I do have a dog who is very determined at times to join in on some of these calls. So I apologise if you hear some barking at some point during the session today. So what are the main challenges that people are facing this week? Would someone like to start and talk about some of those challenges that they're having?
I know for me, it's because I also live alone, I'm finding it really difficult to divide my time, work time, study time, my time. It often feels like a lot of it's going to cat time. Everything's kind of blurring, and it's so screen-based that's quite difficult. But also thinking about how do we respond? What do we do? What sort of resources are the best ones to use and create? Someone else might have some ideas about the impact on them.
Yeah, well, one of the problems that we've got by museum is that most of our members are in the OBE category, over bloody 80, and aren't very computer literate. So trying to keep in touch with a lot of them is hard, particularly with the museum closed, so we're not seeing that individual contact. Then at another level, where I'm connected with Scouts, it's trying to find activities and feed them into the system so that we can keep the Scout programs running, either online or by activity at home.
We have at the Shrine, we have a number of our volunteers are in the same category. However, we have a number of them that are digitally active, and so we've been sending them twice weekly newsletters, very short and sharp and just sort of jolly and what's happening, and maybe a funny story or a snippet of some sort. I guess I don't know how many you have, but occasional phone calls might work, but that might not be practical either. I don't know if anyone else has got some suggestions for that dilemma.
Well, we use, we use Zoom anyway for our meetings because we're on 3 sites. So many of us are familiar with that. We're all working from home, getting to meet people's pets, which is nice. We also have a weekly kind of update every Friday, and if you can't make it to that meeting, they send out a summary via WhatsApp so that everyone keeps informed. So I guess because things are changing every day, keeping people up to date with developments is really important. So I think the WhatsApp summaries and the invitations to the meeting, even though technically I'm on leave today, I'm joining this, but I've also got another meeting coinciding with this or sort of overlapping with this. But even if I miss that, I know I'll get the summary. So I think it's good to just keep people up to date with the new information, and not just about your workplace, but overall. Yeah, and then it's hard to sort of plan anything, I guess, because things have changed, you know, every week for us. So yeah, I guess for us it's mostly the uncertainty because we're closed, we can't take programs. We extended the closure. We're waiting to hear outcomes of funding and things like that. So we can't really plan anything yet because it's all pending on those outcomes. So I guess that's the frustrating thing.
I just saw on the chat someone made a comment about so many Zooms, and I think we can all probably agree with that. I attended a webinar yesterday with Creative Australia, Australia Council for the Arts. They've got a series of free webinars on over the next few months. If you haven't already tapped into that, I'd recommend that you do. And the one yesterday made the point that we should be limiting our Zoom to 1 hour, no more, because it is really exhausting. It's much more exhausting than face-to-face contact. And people that are not tech savvy, like volunteers or older people, are really finding this challenging right now. I certainly accept that. I don't have the answer to that. And I guess I'd say up front, I don't have the answers to lots of things, but hopefully through a mutual shared conversation that we're having today, that we might arrive at some things that will work well for us. Any other comments about working from home and those challenges? I think it's really about keeping people connected. That's what we've been focusing on at the Shrine. And we've just sent out this week, or today in fact, a request for people to send us a little video clip with a series of questions that we'd like to ask them. And we've sent that to everybody, all our volunteers and to all our staff, just to get their input and ideas about what's happening in relation to Anzac Day. And we'll use some of that content as part of our social media platforms, just to, put a face to the institution. Any other, Christine, did you have any other comments about working from home, or any other tips or strategies for getting by?
I might jump in, Sue, for a second. Celia here. I'd like to kind of talk a bit about what organisations might be doing with kind of paid staff who've had to be stood down, or there's kind of no longer work for them. What orgs are doing in terms of kind of keeping them engaged, or kind of reallocating them to different work if possible. If anyone has any kind of solutions for that, or ideas, or kind of what you'd like to see happen.
Yeah, different workplaces are managing that differently. Some have been able to redeploy people into different areas, but of course very tiny, very small workforces find that more difficult to do. Maybe that's something that other people might have some thoughts about, or it's something that maybe we could address at another time, or perhaps on the Envy blog. Some people might have some ideas that they can add to that. I know that there's different industries that have been impacted. Well, everyone knows there's been a lot of industries that whole workforces have lost their jobs. And it seems that places like Coles and call centres and that are redeploying some of them. But yeah, that's really tough and really awful, Celia. I really feel for you and anyone else that's in that position as well. I know more people that have been affected through the economy than have the virus. So.
Well, we just today at the Shrine have to now confront making sure that everyone is doing productive work. So what that means and what that looks like for everybody is sort of a work in progress.
Yeah, that accountability is quite tricky to be able to prove, and particularly if you've got small children, or you've got people that you're caring for, that becomes quite difficult. And I know sometimes I'll be at my computer and I'll be doing lots of work, but it's not exactly productive work. It's answering emails and finishing off a contract, or they're kind of lots of bits and pieces of things. And I know I would feel kind of, it's sort of a bit pointless to be making lists of all of those little tiny tasks that you're doing to prove that you're being productive. Yeah, I suppose, you know, for people that are having to manage other people through those sorts of processes, it would be interesting to know how you're planning on doing that.
It's Rowena here from Coal Creek in Currumborough. I've got a mixture. I've got some teams still working on site with me, and my education program leader and my curatorial officer are working from home. And what we're doing is making sure that we have team Skype meetings each week now, so that they still feel connected with the team that are still on site. And the first couple of weeks, I really my education program leader and the curator, and I let them draft work plans, so they had something to report to, so that those that are further up the chain, I've got something quantitative and qualitative that I can actually give them. So we're actually showing we're being productive and we're out there. And I've been really pushing them to make sure that they hop onto any professional development that they can get as well.
Yeah, professional development, I think, is a really good one, and that's why I was really excited to find that Australia Council for the Arts series of webinars. I think that's really, you know, that's a really good way to use your time.
Yeah.
There's been some good things coming up on the chat as well, so make sure you're looking at that.
University of Leicester run quite a number of free online courses that are quite relevant to this sector as well.
Thank you. I think we're going to be assembling this information to share with everybody later on, aren't we, Christine?
Yep.
Connecting up, if any of you are part of that, that's running a whole lot of free stuff at the moment as well.
Sorry, Ian, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, Connecting Up. It's a company that does IT support for all sorts of places, and they're running a lot of free seminars at the moment, webinars.
Yep. Yep. I've been doing a lot also through the EAP provider through the council that I work for. So they've been really good as well about getting work-life balance and things like that. I've been getting some good tips from them. Maybe if we move on, Sue?
Yep, I think that's a good idea. Okay, thank you, Celia. It's very strange being disconnected from the screen. Okay, producing online. This was a very big area. So I might just say that it seems from talking to my colleagues and talking to who are talking to their colleagues in other institutions that you know the professional sharp and shiny look is not necessarily what's, you know, required at this stage, but you know, I think the content obviously should be relevant to what we're doing. But I think this has got to be a case for the sort of resources that you have yourself. At this point, I mean, the Shrine is not hugely digital, I wouldn't say. I think we've done some digital things, but it's really forced us to go headlong into digital production and understand how that works. So, for example, many of our services will now be recreated via live streaming. And people will be able to look at those on our social platforms. We're certainly going to be ramping up digital content. And, you know, I think, I don't really, as I said, I don't have the answers to this. What's other people's feeling? What are they doing? In terms of teachers, I'll just quickly say that we've just done a survey of teachers. Our ed team did that, just to ask them what they wanted, what they needed from us at this time. And I think if you haven't done something as simple as that with your teachers that you're engaged with, it's probably not a bad place to start.
Yeah, I've been really excited. I've commissioned a whole group because I was very conscious of all of the programs, the face-to-face programs that we had, cancelling them, and our artists and educators and people losing work from that. So I've been fortunate to be in a position where I've been able to commission them to create short videos to replace their programs. And I've been really worried about it because I'm leaving them to their own devices to work out what they're going to look like. And, you know, I don't know what the quality of their phone is like, or the sound recording, or they've never done it before. And it's been a bit of a gamble. But today I got back my first video and I was just so pleased. There is some noise in the background and it's not perfect, and but it's really honest and sincere, and it evokes the spirit of the program just so well. And so now I'm really excited about what I am going to get back from my artists. And even though we don't know how long this will go for, I'm really looking forward to putting these videos up online and hoping that people look at them and engage with them, and that instead of the face-to-face conversations that we would normally have with our communities, that maybe some of them can go online now. But I'm also heartened when I watch the news and I'm seeing all these interviews with people in their homes, and they're just using the microphone off their laptop, and they're just using the lamp in the room. And you know, we come to expect a higher standard of recording from our television shows, and particularly from the ABC. But that even they've been able to, you know, not compromise their values, but accept a lower standard to still be able to maintain, you know, these interviews and do their work. I just think is really inspiring.
Has anyone...
Can I?
Oh, sorry, John.
No, I just wanted to just hop in here just very, very quickly, because this is what I'm doing pretty much 24/7. Sadly, my museum's been closed completely. Opportunity to do stuff behind the scenes. But what I'm doing mostly now, and sadly for others, is creating online content for them. Libraries, art galleries, that kind of thing. And it's really, really easy to get some good stuff. Modern phones now take really, really good quality things. People are accepting the, hey, come for a walk with me, you know, I'm the director or I'm the whatever, and you wander through and you turn the phone around and you show things and you turn it back to your face. People are accepting of that because it's real. And you're right there, and it's something that you're not normally seeing as a patron as you're walking through the bricks and the mortar, but you're actually seeing it online, and that's whetting people's appetites. But there are many fairly easy to use and free softwares out there if you want to drift into some kind of editing of your own programs to create things, and they're fairly intuitive and they give semi-professional results. There's all the usual stuff, like when you're taking photographs of where the light's shining, and you know, if it's behind you, is it in front of you, and don't make things too long, and because it sounds interesting to you doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be interesting to everybody else. And certainly younger people have the more limited, or tend to have more limited attention spans, unless they're really, really interested. But I'm just saying, yeah, there's great opportunities out there to create your own stuff now, and you've got the technology right at your fingertips.
Thanks, John. I wanted to, we've got Ian from Fire Services Museum and EB who put up their hand. But before we go to them, I just wanted to ask if anyone has tried to make video content for their audiences using Zoom. You can reply to me in the chat if you like. So maybe we'll go to EB first, and then we'll go back to Ian, if that's okay.
Hi, my name's Emma. I'm from Newcastle, so thanks for inviting me, Christine. I'm not Victoria, but that's fine. At Newcastle Museum, we are run by council, and it's been a bit weird for me. I'm at home now, which this is where my home is, with the goat backdrop on the tree. This is Zoom, which is hilarious, and I've just figured out how to be a talking banana. So the opportunities for actually being a little bit sideways have blossomed, which is nice. And I agree with everybody that only putting up stuff online that's schmick and shiny and pretty gets a bit same old, same old. So having a mixture of that and the honest, raw stuff that you know has been done in people's backyards, because that's our circumstances right now, I think are really important. We're doing low-hanging fruit, so resources that we've done that we can scan and chuck up online, we're doing that. But we've been really lucky in that we've had this amazing relationship with our local ABC radio over the years, and they've had to do the required how many Facebook Lives. So we're putting those up online. We're grabbing things that we've already got, but we've also been really honest, and there's no point redoing something that somebody else is already doing that's awesome. So we're just pulling things across and saying this comes from here, this comes from here, but they're really awesome resources as well. So I don't see the point in building something, spending all that time when somebody else has just done it already. And so we've been really honest and clear about that. But then our objects and our stories are unique to us. So that's what we're working on next. So yeah, don't flog a dead horse. Don't run yourselves ragged and make everything quick, everything online, where you can actually have a wee look around and do some copying and pasting as well, and just sharing other people's love, because everybody's got some good stuff out there.
That's a good point, Emma, because I think, supporting each other at this time and the work that we're all trying to do is a really good thing. And I think, there's room, especially on platforms like Instagram, to be super quirky and perhaps do stuff that we mightn't normally have done.
Yeah.
Ian, did you have something to?
Oh, well, yeah, to a large extent the conversation's moved on, but I think going back a bit, the ABC's been caught short like everybody else. They just haven't got the resources to put in every home. A lot of this has come up on people so quick that they haven't planned for it. The gentleman was saying about the phone walkthroughs. We were actually looking at that before this all happened, but we hadn't gone anywhere with it. But it might be worth trying to revisit it in the middle of this. And what Emma was saying about borrowing, just remember there's no such thing as plagiarism, it's sharing of resources.
Thank you, Ian. So this is obviously a pretty hot topic. I think there's probably more that we could explore on this, perhaps in a future session. You're muted, Christine.
We've just had a Stephanie from the National Wool Museum state that, is there an opportunity for collaboration across the sector? Stephanie, do you want to just describe to us what's in the link? We probably don't have time to watch it, but.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I've just, we're in a sort of medium museum, and I've been watching what other people are doing, and it's really interesting. And some people have the capacity, bigger museums have the capacity to really get on and get some stuff up and have the platforms. We've got a very rigid website within our council. The website I gave an example of is one in the UK where it's a whole lot of different cultural organisations have put into this, I guess, library of resources, and whether there's an opportunity for, perhaps someone that's got the tech to host something like that we can all contribute to, and then we're not doubling up, and we're creating a central place for our audience to go to.
A
great idea.
Marga. Who are our Marga representatives today? Celia and...
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening. I think it's a really great idea and something that would be kind of very well received.
Because I think it would allow people that, especially at the smaller museums, that might only be able to produce one or two things and not have the platform to sort of sit it on, to actually make a meaningful contribution.
Yeah, I suppose that's where networks and relationships come to play. Meeting people from the sector and knowing who's going to be a good person to work with on something like this.
What Stephanie was suggesting, it sounds a little bit like an option for Victorian collections.
Yeah. It also shows where people like you, Celia, that even though you may not be working in the sector completely, you know, keeping up your skills and being flexible and just trying out new programs and things. Before we were talking about videos and producing online resources sort of on the cheap and really easily. You can talk over a Microsoft PowerPoint and record it. It's as simple as that. There's a record function in PowerPoint that's probably on 99% of people's computers already.
Okay. Well, I think there's more to be discussed there, but that was really some great ideas have come out of that. So we might move on to. We can continue this conversation going, and we might have some material here for another session. Right. This is exciting, future opportunities. I feel like at my workplace, we are really probably setting in some groundwork that's going to have some really positive unintended consequences. And I think that, you know, face-to-face engagement won't disappear, I don't think, but I think we'll look at digital a little differently. And the webinar I did yesterday, one of the interesting things she said was that the technology should be viewed as just another lens through which to look at creative expression. And it can be a way to help you sort of think differently about what you've produced. So I think there's some really positive things that will come out of this. Has anyone else had any thoughts about what this might look like on the other side?
I've been able to attend meetings at other venues. So I work at Museums Victoria, so I've managed to attend more meetings with colleagues at Melbourne Museum and Immigration Museum and hear a bit more about what's been happening across campus. So that's been really wonderful.
Yeah, I think more collaboration across our workplace is definitely something that's going to happen going forward, which I think is a really wonderful thing to have happened, or it will happen for sure. And I think even the fantastic engagement that we've got in today's conversation is probably going to change the way we all work together as well.
We've got Rachel from the National Education Network.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Because we're in the national network, we do all ours by phone. This technology has existed, but we've never bothered to use it. And yesterday I had my first phone meeting with someone. I don't know if Steph is here today, but and finally saw someone I've been working with for 2 years. And I felt like the meeting was just more productive because we were seeing each other. And next week we're all going to see each other, and that's just great. So I think that is a positive if we can start to take them. And my other positive from some volunteering work I'm doing is if the professionals are sort of dropping that level of polished work, that means a small local museum will go, yeah, we'll give it a go because the bar's been lowered. So that's really good. So that's something I'm working towards.
Yeah, I think that's true. The technology is here, but now by necessity, we're starting to actually engage with it. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
I think Emma's got her hand up for Newcastle. Oh, you're on mute, Emma.
Sorry. We've finally got our first curator officially, and he started it, and then we're all in lockdown, so that's hilarious. But we've always been trying to figure out how to get more people to rate with our collections online. It was always going to be things that were a little bit staid that everybody else does as well. So because of us utilising the technology, we're actually thinking a little bit more weirdly, and actually, yeah, we're thinking much better about how we share our collections, but in a way that's way more collaborative, not with just each other, like my colleagues, like you guys, but actually more collaborative with community. They get to vote on things. They get to vote which box we open up from our collection, not knowing what's inside, and unpacking it like Christmas presents, and voting what we do next, and what the hell is that, and how to read our labels, going and looking it up in our collections online and telling us what they've found. So there's been some really cool stuff that we're doing. That is, and like, for example, I run the Science Festival at the end of Science Week, because we're one of the biggest hubs in New South Wales. We all now have to do it online. So we're busy now thinking up how do we now make it fully interactive but online. And it's actually been really, really exciting. There are massive restrictions. We've got a couple of colleagues who I have to talk to a guy by phone. He's doing research for me, God knows how. He doesn't have an internet. He doesn't have a computer at home. So that we've got to think about how we do that. And also people with special needs who can operate but at limited levels, or people with dementia and things that I'm used to going out on outreach. How now do we get out to those people as well? So there's been exciting things, but there's been worries for me as well. I'm dying to be a banana.
Trying to be a banana, yeah. I think, you know, a couple of people have written on here about the opportunity going forward for these formats to help engage regional people. And I think that that's really important, because even I, who work in Melbourne, find it difficult sometimes to, you know, get out and to go to some of the things I'd like to go to. So if we had the occasional setup like this, it might be a little easier to be involved. So I think that that will be a really excellent thing. And Hermione talking about, you know, being excited about content development, I think that it gives you some breathing space to think about those things, which is a good thing. Yeah. Any other comments, May, Christine? That's the only people I can see on my screen.
Yeah, it's been a great time for updating old education resources. I was joking with my colleagues at the museum that what I describe my work as now is MONER, M-O-N-E-R, Museum of Old and New Education Resources. I'm trying to, you know, update the old ones and then collate some new ones to put up online.
Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity. And I know where the ARED team are going to be repurposing some of the school holiday program material as primary school materials for primary school teachers. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity for that sort of work as well.
We've also been finding that there's been some opportunities for our staff to try other roles. So if they are front of house presenters or visitor experience staff, to try some other things like working in IT, for example, trying to get everyone upskilled and set up to work from home, or in other areas. Sarah from Gippsland.
Yeah, thanks, May. I had a really good conversation with Tim Dakin at Regional Arts Victoria a couple of weeks ago when this was all kicking off, and we had an art forum that was going to be audience-based in the flesh, which of course got cancelled. So we're looking at using a podcast system, and something that came up when we were fleshing that idea out was during the fires and post-fires, a lot of, because Gippsland being such a huge region, a lot of the people weren't able to tell their story. So this podcast method where you can record telephone calls brings that network so much tighter. So we're exploring this not just for COVID, but after, you know, when everything goes back to normal, how can we keep our community talking and engaging and connecting, and podcasting seems to be a really good platform for that.
Great.
Yeah, I think that's the other. I mean, we in my workplace we had been into podcasting for a while, but I think, you know, looking for other ways to use that sort of technology as well. So it's definitely made us change our thinking on a whole range of things, which, you know, is probably not a bad thing. Any other questions coming through, comments?
A lot of refinement happening, people taking a more of a global view of their programs. I know that at ScienceWorks we have way too many programs, we need to cut down.
I'm wondering if anyone's working with schools at all yet, or working with any teachers directly.
Not directly, but one of my daughters is a secondary teacher, and we've had a couple of discussions about this weekend over the last week or two, by phone and email.
We've had a great question from Adrienne from Melbourne Museum. Are there any other ways and means apart from online? For example, is anyone mailing paper resources or any other means?
Someone told me the other day that regional schools will be looking for paper-based resources. I don't know if that's true.
I think that will be a case-by-case basis, because it's to do with where the black spots such are. Traditionally with scouting, we have issues with communicating with country groups because of the bandwidth restrictions and so on in some areas. In fact, not even in the country, some of the city areas are just as bad, and they're looking at a lot of paper resources. One suggestion was that somebody's going for their daily exercise, and as they're going, they're dropping the paper resources in the respective youth members' letterboxes.
That's a good idea.
I work for council, and another area of council that works with aged and disability services, they're having sort of these telephone meetings with people. So there's about 6 people that will be on a party line, I guess, or a conference call, and they catch up at a regular time. And I believe that it's facilitated and that people just talk, you know. And I'm wondering if that's going to be a useful thing for us to do at the gallery. Sort of doing what they're doing with people that are interested in art. Because I really feel for people that aren't comfortable on technology and, you know, don't know how to turn on a computer and download Zoom and things like that.
We've got Adrienne who wants to say something. I've unmuted you, Adrienne.
2 things. I am interested in alternate means, because I think that people are going to get so much exhaustion from being online all the time, and they're just not going to be able to find the resources. So collective resources are great, but I don't think someone like an organisation like Museums Victoria is going to necessarily, you know, they'll want to continue to have their audiences, that kind of thing. So I don't think we're going to be collaborating like that. One of the things that we've been setting up is a lot of training and a book club. But the book club is, you set, you know, a couple of weeks in advance, but the topics are about, you know, books. So say, for instance, Christine, you could feature an artist and say next week we're going to talk about these people. So everybody could have a way in that way, so people can go away and then research a bit, find out how interested they are, and then afterwards, afterwards then you can get together and have that very important social time. Sorry, one of my colleagues can't get me online.
Okay, thanks for that, Adrienne.
Yeah, anyone else got any ideas about, you know, not online? I think Chloe's written something there that's interesting. So we can download things and, you know, students can do them old school.
People still have printers at home?
I don't know, I do.
We can't access the libraries to print them anymore.
One of the issues with low socioeconomic areas is that the libraries were the point of contact for almost everything online, be it printing, email, the lot. This has disadvantaged a lot of people. That's why when I was referring back to Scouts before, some of the information is being hand delivered to the disadvantaged families in that space.
Andrea Jackson from the DAC Centre has her hand up.
I was just going to say, I also work as a primary school teacher part-time. So back to the points about schools and what we're actually providing in activities. I think initially the government guidelines for schools are keeping it really, really simple. So particularly in primary, which is my area, it's not a full day's worth of teaching. So anything we're providing now, we wouldn't want to be overloading teachers or schools with too much information until families and teachers have worked out how to live in a digital at-home learning environment. But also the guidelines are really strong on everything being consistent. So every student has to be able to access the same activity, whether they're accessing it online or whether the school has provided paper copies for them, whether they're the children of emergency services or essential workers and they're actually at school or whether they're working from home. Every single child has to be working on the same program, regardless of their access. So I think that's something to keep in mind for anything that we're developing. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's why I think a good starting point is just talking to teachers that you have dealt with regularly and just sort of getting a sense of what they're going to need from you. Just it's really, I think at this point, I feel like it's a lot about relationship building with the teachers that you've you know, been involved with. So now we have a change of screen.
Sorry, that was me.
All right, so I think we're just about out of time. Any last questions, May?
I just wanted to say that my kids' school are actually, you can request devices, either iPads or laptops, if you don't have them at home. So a lot of schools have class sets of these things, and so I think each school, or particularly my daughter's school, are providing devices to be used at home, and you have to go to the school and collect them. So I think most kids would have access to online devices, even if they didn't have their own. Schools are actually giving them the equipment. So I think most kids wouldn't, you know, I'd be surprised if they didn't have any access to online learning.
Well, that's what they've come out and said, isn't it? So hopefully that's that will be the case. Okay, Christine, did you want to wrap up now?
Well, first of all, it would be great to get everyone's feedback if you've enjoyed this presentation and how we've been able to let it all run. Maybe if you could put your hand up. I will be sending out a survey as well, but maybe if you could put your hand up now in the chat room, just so that we can get a sense of if we're on the right track or not. That would be really good. I also encourage you to follow Envy on Facebook, and the address is up there. We also have a Twitter account, and you can subscribe to our mailing list, and we'll be running more of these, I hope, and they'll be promoted on our website, which is amagaenvy.org. So I encourage you to subscribe to that and keep an eye on our blog as well. So I'd like to thank everyone that's participated today. All of your hands have disappeared from my view, so I'm assuming that all of your hands are up. Maybe, oh yes, I can see 8 participants raised hands. So we've had about 50 people, nearly 50 people in here for this session. So I think that the committee that's been organising it can give themselves a pat on the back because it's gone well. Thank you to everyone that's put their hand up and contributed, and thank you to the committee for organising this. So happy Easter, everybody. And there's been lots of familiar names on here and faces, and it would be lovely to catch up with you individually at some point through all of this as well. So it seems we're in it for the long haul. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. It was a very good conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.